Within the last year, there are some stories that really stand out for me. And in many of those cases, it's unfortunately one of those situations where they did not have an IT partner that was really sophisticated. They found themselves in a predicament that was incredibly difficult to recover from. And just last year, right after Thanksgiving, I received a call from one of our CPAs who ultimately referred us to one of their clients. This firm was not one of our clients, but ultimately they had they passed them along to see if we could help, and they wanted us to try to help after the fact, unfortunately. But what had happened is this firm, they were a construction firm, and they had reached out to their CPA just in an incredible amount of stress and anxiety. And what happened is one of their quote unquote most sophisticated and conscientious team members when it comes to security and things of that nature, who happened to also be an administrator to a lot of their systems, happened to fall for a ransomware event that came across their email. So a vendor that they had worked with for a lot of years had been hacked, business email compromise. So a malicious actor was leveraging their real email. They had delivered to their contact list, email with malicious attachments, and the individual within this company opened it. And they had opened it without expecting this email, right? It's many times we get things from people that we're not expecting, and that's always time to raise an eyebrow and think twice. And this individual didn't, and they weren't expecting it, but they had opened it. Nothing happened at that immediate time, according to what she had said. But ultimately, what did happen is she had downloaded some malicious, some malware, as well as given some access unknowingly. And because she was the administrator to a lot of their systems, she did something that we don't advise, and that is she kept passwords on her computer in an Excel spreadsheet. Well, lo and behold, right, a weekend comes, right? Nothing happens for weeks on end. Meanwhile, this malicious actor was actually leveraging things within, passwords and otherwise, and doing a little bit of diligence and research on their system. And then on a Friday night after work, they launched a pretty significant ransomware attack on their servers and backup systems. And unfortunately, nobody had ever tested their backups for like the last 6 months. And so what that meant is they actually didn't have good backup systems, first of all. Secondly, a lot of them are already corrupted with ransomware. But I spoke to them after Thanksgiving, and they had just shared with me, that they had worked essentially 14-hour days all the way through Thanksgiving. And that actually continued, because I spoke to them earlier this year, that continued through the Christmas holiday as they desperately tried to recover their entire accounting system, from paper files. They were in the construction industry. They were one of those folks that fortunately, in this instance, actually had captured the vast majority of their documentation in paper as well. And so they had, a full room of file cabinets and whatnot. But they refused to pay the ransom, and it's a big number too. Right? I mean, I think the average is typically in that $50,000 range. I think Sam will talk about that a little bit. That, and shockingly, that's exactly what they asked, but they refused to pay for it. So this business was able to recover through a ton of pain and effort and long hours. And they still could obviously never get that accounting system back to where it was. But they were able to stay in business. And unfortunately, there are many stories like that where, that's not the outcome.